When the news of my family's tragic demise reached us, my husband finally brought his young beloved into the royal residence, bestowing upon her the title of concubine. I implored him, "My maternal family is in mourning. I beseech you to wait a while longer." Yet, he could not delay for a moment, swiftly selecting an auspicious day to welcome her in. I was compelled to endure her tea ceremony before I could return home to observe the period of mourning. Pei Yuan, however, declared, "This king is filled with joy. It is ill-advised to be tainted by matters of grief," thus refusing to pay his respects to my deceased father and brothers. I numbly attended to the funeral arrangements and, in light of my family's military achievements, submitted a petition requesting an imperial decree for divorce. The emperor gazed at me with a troubled expression. "At present, the royal residence is your only refuge. Why torment yourself so?" I solemnly bowed my head. "I have made up my mind, and I implore your majesty to grant my wish in consideration of my father's and brother's meritorious service." When the imperial edict arrived at the residence of the Duke of Chun, Pei Yuan regarded my actions as folly. "A perfectly fine princess, yet you choose this path. I shall see how you fare without me." I replied, "Indeed, you may not witness it. 1. I am the sole daughter of the general's residence, cherished and pampered by my family since my early years. At the tender age of 15, I fell head over heels for Pei Yuan, who was then but a prince. Subsequently, as the prince contended for the throne, the current emperor, eager to win my family's favor, arranged for Pei Yuan to wed me. It was only after our marriage that I discovered Pei Yuan harbored a profound affection for a childhood sweetheart. Had it not been for my presence, he would have married that young lady. Nevertheless, my family adored me so fiercely that Pei Yuan was deprived even of the chance to pursue his true love. Thus, he not only resented me but also my family. Before I departed the royal residence, he instructed the steward, "Keep a close watch on her. She must not take anything of value from the estate." The steward nodded in compliance, then turned to present my dowry list. "My lady, do not forget these." Indeed, during my wedding, the sumptuous bridal procession was a glory bestowed by His Majesty, as well as an expression of my family's affection. Hence, I arranged for the items to be transported back to the general's residence. As I stepped out, I passed a corner tea shop. The proprietor was a kindly old man, and I had once adored his pastries. "Oh, how has the owner changed?" I lamented, missing the peach juice cakes I used to relish. The young lady smiled up at me, her features reminiscent of the old man. "3 years ago, my mother fell ill and became unable to manage. Since then, I have taken over the shop." 3 years had passed since my marriage to Pei Yuan, during which I had adhered to the protocols of a princess, managing the royal residence and attending various banquets and social gatherings. Unbeknownst to me, 3 years had slipped away. The young lady continued, "My skills cannot compare to my mother's. Many of her pastry recipes have faded away with me." Noticing several unfamiliar delicacies on display, I pointed and said, "I'll have a sampling of these." Her eyes lit up, and she swiftly prepared a plate for me. Though I cannot replicate my mother's peach juice cake, many have praised these new creations of mine. Even my mother has been quite complimentary. I smiled gently and nodded. "Innovation arises from tradition. It is only natural." She beamed like a blossoming flower, gazing at me and exclaiming, "Your words are truly delightful, madam." 2. "Look at you, madam, adorned in such finery, pulling along so many carts. May I inquire where you are headed?" The lady, delighted by my amiability, continued to knead dough while conversing with me. "To the general's residence." Her hands paused momentarily, and with hesitation, she asked, "What business do you have at the general's residence? Do you know that the entire family has perished in battle?" How tragic for such a family. The old general, who had devoted his life to warfare, achieving numerous victories, and the young general, valiant in battle and protective of the people, have left behind not even a single ember of incense after their demise. Just the other day, my husband and I paid our respects from afar. The more she spoke, the more sorrowful she seemed. A pang of grief surged within me as I lowered my gaze and absently consumed the pastries, whispering, "Indeed, it is a pity." With my mother having passed away early, I was raised by my brothers. The sudden news of their death struck me like a thunderbolt. I initially intended to follow my brothers into the afterlife, but the steward advised, "The general's residence now has only you left, my lady. If anything were to happen to you, our lineage would be extinguished." Thus, I gritted my teeth and endured until this day. The lady's words echoed the steward's counsel. As I departed, she called after me, "Madam, you've given me too much money. Allow me to return the change." "No need." I turned to her, earnestly explaining, "The general's residence is not entirely lost." The lady appeared bewildered, unable to grasp my meaning. Tonger shot her a glare and explained curtly, "Our madam is the general's daughter. The bloodline of the general's residence remains intact, so how can one speak of annihilation?" This revelation left the patrons momentarily stunned, followed by murmurs of discussion. The general's daughter? Wasn't she married already? I heard she was granted a decree of divorce. Not only did she fail to attend the general's funeral, but she also took a beautiful concubine shortly after her father's death. What concubine? She was a secondary consort. The speaker spat in disdain. I say, the divorce was for the best. A person like that is utterly disgraceful. The others quickly hushed, glancing at the retreating carriage, shaking their heads in dismay. Such a pity. Ultimately, she is just a woman. Others nodded in agreement. Only the shopkeeper, wielding her rolling pin, swung it down forcefully and glared at the patrons. What of being a woman? She is still the general's daughter, not inferior to any man. 3. The wheels rolled on. And thankfully, we arrived at the general's residence just before noon. Although the sun did not beat down upon us, everyone felt a pang of hunger. The steward, with tears brimming in his eyes, came forth to greet me. "My lady, what is this?" He too had just heard the news that I had divorced the prince. With the general gone, who would be my support? "Steward, have the dowry moved back into the storeroom and prepare some food for everyone." "Yes, my lady." The steward quickly wiped away his tears and set about his tasks. In the past, despite my brother's absence, the household had always been orderly. Now, in just a few days, it appeared desolate. The fruit trees that my brother had painstakingly transplanted from the south were now withered, their leaves scattered across the ground, leaving a scene of utter desolation. Once the immediate tasks were complete, the steward approached with concern. After a long pause, he spoke with a bitter tone, "My lady, why return? Even though the general is gone, the emperor still cherishes old sentiments. Your position as princess is unassailable." He assumed my sorrow stemmed from Pei Yuan. "Steward, do you remember what my brother said when he transplanted this fruit tree?" The steward nodded, following my pointing finger. "Young master said you love citrus. So he planted this tree in the residence, ensuring you would enjoy the freshest fruit every year." The memory surged back with his words. Yet it could not escape the ruthless reality. Indeed, but this citrus tree has never borne fruit since its transplantation. Just like people. No matter how much one may adore something, if it does not belong to you, even if acquired, it yields no results. It is better to discard it. Amid the steward's shock, I commanded the removal of all citrus trees to be burned upon my brother's graves. I removed my hairpins and shed my bridal attire. 4. The steward was taken aback. "My lady, do not act foolishly." I understood his concerns. "Rest assured, I shall not do anything rash. There has never been a precedent for women to take up arms in this dynasty, and even with my military lineage, I would not be permitted." It was precisely for this reason that the emperor felt secure allowing me to return home after the divorce. They all believed that the honor of the general's residence could not be preserved. I thought it best to delay matters for a while. What my brothers fought to protect must not be easily forgotten. Thus, I quietly managed the household affairs, sending a letter to the front lines through the steward. Thereafter, I closed the doors to visitors, dedicating myself to arranging my brother's manuscripts, maps of terrain, military strategies. My father had long been stationed in battle, thoroughly familiar with the enemy. All of this was mentioned in his manuscripts and military treatises addressed to my brother. I meticulously copied, reorganized, and amended them, preparing to compile them into a book. I thought, what they could not finish, someone must continue. The steward, reluctant to witness my toil, continually urged, "My lady, perhaps you should eat something before writing?" "No need. I cannot eat." Not only could I not eat, but when the steward brought in a bowl of fragrant chicken soup, I suddenly retched, nearly expelling my bile. The steward finally realized something was amiss and hurriedly summoned a doctor. After a thorough examination, as the physician's hand gently brushed against his beard, his smile transformed into a frown. Trembling, he delivered the verdict, "Miss, this is a sign of pregnancy, compounded by your frail constitution. If you do not take proper care during this time, there is a risk of miscarriage." The old steward, overwhelmed with joy, wept, "Heaven has eyes." It blesses our general's household. Our family shall have descendants." The physician discreetly exhaled in relief. I, however, was left in a state of bewilderment. After 3 long years of yearning for a child, I had relinquished all hope, only to discover this unexpected blessing. After the physician's departure, Tonger anxiously inquired, "Miss, why did you not silence the doctor?" My child, after all, bore the bloodline of the royal family. She feared that Pei Yuan might, for the sake of the child, take me back to his home to nurture the pregnancy, thereby claiming my child for himself. The intricacies of my relationship with Pei Yuan remained obscure to others. Yet Tonger had witnessed everything with clarity, especially during the funeral of my father and brother. I had implored him. "My father and brother died valiantly for our nation. I beseech you, your highness, accompany me to pay my respects." As a married woman, I found myself needing my husband to address significant matters. Yet, Pei Yuan coldly rebuffed me. The man who once showered me with affection now harbored only a thirst for vengeance in his eyes. To claim one's country while lacking the skill to defend it? "I am a dignified prince, oppressed for years, forced to marry you. And they do not even permit me to take a concubine. Such a fate is what they deserve, pierced by a rain of arrows." A chill coursed through my chest, and I could only return to my estate alone. Under the steward's guidance, I managed to see my family off with a semblance of dignity. Upon my return to the royal residence, the girl, Chu Lingrong, whom he had cherished for years, had become a side consort. My family had barely begun to mourn, while he reveled with his new companion every night. Pei Yuan's affection for her was palpable, as they seemed inseparable. In that moment, my heart sank. He does not care for me. How could he possibly care for my child? The child would inevitably come into the world. Concealing the truth could breed unnecessary gossip. Therefore, I resolved to embrace this pregnancy openly. Meanwhile, the Empress dispatched envoys on several occasions, with the matron indignantly relaying the message. "Her Majesty has said that you carry the prince's child. If it is a boy, he shall be the heir to the royal house. With her and the Emperor as support, you need not worry. Should you wish to return to the royal residence, simply express your desire, and both the Emperor and Her Majesty will assist you." Tonger attempted to interject several times, only to be restrained by my hand. Their intentions were too blatant, so much so that even Tonger felt it was an affront. I bowed my head gracefully. "I thank Her Majesty and the Emperor. But since I have already divorced the prince, this child shall naturally bear the Su surname, thereby preserving my family line." The matron, realizing her persuasion had failed, departed in resignation. Thus, I found myself with additional responsibilities. Each day, aside from copying military treatises, I had to focus on nurturing my pregnancy. However, this endeavor proved more arduous than I had anticipated. Daily bouts of nausea and overwhelming fatigue left me utterly exhausted, often incapacitated for hours. Tonger, deeply concerned, wept as she spoke to my belly. "Little master, could you not be a bit quieter? Do not torment your mother. She has already suffered enough." Occasionally, she could not help but ask, "Miss, people outside say that your ancestors are watching over you, and this pregnancy is destined to bear a son. In that case, our general's household will have hope." I shifted my wrist, and she promptly took the pen, gently massaging along my shoulder. Tonger said that everyone was eager for me to bear a son to console the spirits of my father and brother, ensuring the continuation of the general's lineage. But that was not entirely true. For instance, those distant relatives back home. Upon learning of my father's death in battle, not a single relative, who would once visit our home with gifts during festivals, came to offer condolences. Yet now, upon hearing of my divorce and return home, they were eager to visit. Accompanied by a teenage cousin, the clan leader approached me with a self-important demeanor. "Though your father and brother have perished, the family line must continue. We have selected a promising child to adopt in your father's name." Tonger helped me rise from my chair, expressing gratitude to the clan leader. "Thank you for your consideration. But we have not forgotten our family lineage during the festivals. There is no need for reminders." He struck his cane down angrily. "Impudent. You have been cast aside by the royal family, bringing shame upon the clan. It is a leniency that we allow you to return home. Do you truly wish to see your line extinguished?" The other elders echoed his sentiments, vehemently rebuking me for my perceived lack of filial piety, threatening to expel me from the family and leave me without a home. A slight pain pierced my abdomen. I gently placed my hand there, soothing my child, then met their gazes with icy determination. If the clan leader wishes to disown me, then let him expel the entire General S line. From now on, I will sever all ties with the clan's offerings. As for this cousin of mine, regardless of which elder's child you are, let me warn you. The honor of the General S household is not something you can lay claim to. A flicker of embarrassment crossed the faces of the clan elders. Yet my words did not intimidate them. The clan leader, stern-faced, rebuked me. A mere discarded woman dares to threaten the elders of the clan? Bring forth the family law. Tonger, pale with fright, immediately shielded me. No, my lady is with child. We cannot invoke the family law. The elders scolded her harshly. How dare you, a mere maid? Defy authority? You cannot be struck, but she surely can. Foolish Tonger, believing she had truly shielded me from calamity, did not dare to resist and dutifully knelt to accept punishment. They wore triumphant smiles while the steward had been sent away. I watched helplessly as Tonger was made to kneel before them, feeling a mix of anger and anxiety. In a moment of distraction, I was unexpectedly shoved hard, sending my body forward uncontrollably. Just before I fell, I saw the excitement on everyone's faces, save for Tonger, who wore a mask of terror. Miss. Tonger struggled against their grip, unable to break free. I shut my eyes, even forgetting to cry out for help. Fortunately, just before I hit the ground, a pair of gentle hands caught my shoulders, slowly lifting me upright. Before the disappointment faded from the crowd's faces, the steward rushed back. His eyes reddened as he positioned himself protectively in front of me. What is the meaning of this, elders? Do you truly believe that our General S household lacks male heirs, and thus wish to harm the child of the miss, waiting to see our line extinguished? It was rare for him to speak so harshly. Whenever the elders visited in the past, he would bow and smile, but now, facing their discomfort, he too felt a surge of anger. He turned to express his gratitude to the guards by my side and commanded Tonger to assist me in taking a rest. Before leaving, I glanced back for a final look. It was the first time I had seen the steward, who had bowed for many years, standing tall. The guards, long stationed outside, encircled the ancestral hall under his command. Before apprehending anyone, he gritted his teeth, his gaze filled with a feral intensity. Though the miss has sought a decree for divorce, the child within her is still recognized as the royal bloodline of the prince and as the orphan of the general. This attempt on her life in front of everyone cannot go unpunished. As the steward of this household, I vow to protect her with my life. Until we uncover the truth, no one shall leave. Those who had once held themselves high now displayed signs of panic. The elders turned to the clan leader, seeking his resolution. Initially, the clan leader had intended to continue his intimidation. I do not believe it. While the general was alive, he treated even me, the clan leader, with respect. He strode forth defiantly. The guards, receiving orders, immediately drew their weapons in response. The steward coldly declared, "The assailant remains at large. Should anyone wish to take their own life out of guilt, I shall be sure to inform the royal palace of your cowardice." The elder leader staggered back, nearly fainting from fright. The chosen scion of the clan, upon witnessing this scene, burst into tears, collapsing into the embrace of an elder and lamenting. "I told you I wouldn't come. You deceived me into believing that the general's mansion would offer a life of luxury and comfort. What a farce." Despite their heartfelt weeping, the steward merely scoffed and turned away, his resolute figure bearing a striking resemblance to the former general. Once the steward had concluded his affairs, Pei Yuan arrived abruptly. Without preamble, he inquired anxiously, "I heard the child is in trouble?" In light of his concern for the child, I calmly reassured him, "The child is unharmed. The doctor has just examined him." He exhaled in relief, but then reproached me, "You are to be a mother now. How can you be so careless as to fail in caring for a child?" He didn't even bother to ask what had transpired. I had thought his worry was genuine, so I merely averted my gaze and gently reminded him, "You've been out for quite some time. The concubine must be growing anxious. It's your fault. Were it not for the Emperor's decree instructing me to check on the child, I would not have been separated from my beloved for so long. Moreover, the heir to the royal mansion shall solely be the child of myself and Linglong. Do not harbor foolish dreams of claiming what does not belong to you based on your father's accomplishments." With that, he hastily departed. It became clear that his concern for the child was insincere. Tong, fuming with indignation, wished to comfort me yet found herself at a loss for words, tears brimming in her eyes. I silently finished my medicine and instructed her, the clan's matters must be cut off decisively. Let the steward handle it swiftly. From now on, the honor and disgrace of the general's mansion concern no one else. It is neither beneficial to embellish a situation nor to offer aid in distress. It is better to endure temporary reproach and sever this relationship, saving some funds to provide more ink and paper for the children in the academy and buying shoes and socks for those in the martial grounds. Although these affairs had always been managed by the steward, they were nonetheless my father's hard work, matters he valued during his lifetime. Having been bedridden for a few days, I now mustered the strength to rise. My body felt relatively light, and I needed to hasten to finish the first draft to send for revision. With the autumn winds beginning to stir, bringing a refreshing chill, it was quite pleasant. Just as Tonger prepared the ink and brush, the steward rushed in. The usually composed elder was uncharacteristically flustered, running and shouting, "A grave matter has arisen. The prince is in trouble." Before he could finish, 6 matrons and 20 palace maids entered in an orderly manner, as though they had come to demand accountability. The leading matron, after bowing respectfully to the assembly, spoke with grave solemnity. "By imperial decree, we are here to ensure the well-being of the princess." "There is no princess here, only the divorced young lady of the general's mansion, Xue Zixin," I retorted, frowning. The matron bowed again respectfully but showed no sign of retreating. "If the emperor declares her a princess, then she is a princess," the matron asserted, shoving Tonger aside and taking my arm herself. "The princess is with child and should not exert herself. Let us return and allow her to rest." Such an attitude was not one of servitude but rather of confinement. Impudence. "I possess the emperor's decree for divorce. Do you dare to falsely convey imperial orders? Are you attempting to abduct me?" I invoked the edict. The shadow guard, summoned by my command, appeared in a flash, their cold blade poised at the matron's throat. The remaining individuals exchanged terrified glances, and they hastily knelt in supplication. "Miss, spare us. We are indeed sent by the emperor. We are all from the palace." Seizing the opportunity, the steward cast me a knowing glance. In the side hall, he succinctly informed me, "The prince fell from his horse and injured his lower body. It is said to affect his progeny. To put it bluntly, he could no longer bequeath an heir." My heart tightened at once. The emperor had dispatched such a multitude, it was evident they were intent on my child. To avoid public scrutiny, he sought to confine me within the general's mansion, planning to seize my son once he was born and bestow a name upon him, designating him as the heir. As for me, the divorced mother, I would be rendered inconsequential. The more I pondered, the more apprehensive I became. One emperor, one prince, how should I respond? "Do not panic, miss. Focus on your pregnancy and leave everything else to me," the steward urged gently, sensing my anxiety. It then occurred to me that he had once served as a strategist to my father for several years. As he organized my father's manuscripts, he had offered me numerous invaluable insights. My heart calmed slightly, and I nodded in gratitude. "Very well." Tonger peeked outside, her worry palpable. "What shall we do about those palace people?" A knot formed in my heart. Naturally, I would not indulge them. Since they claim to be here to assist with my delivery, they are merely servants and maids. They need not be overly pampered. As over 20 individuals settled into the mansion, the original staff became idle. I had intentionally instructed them not to assign the newcomers excessive tasks, yet they were bound to create trouble for me. The leading matron incessantly droned in my ear, "What couple does not quarrel? This child will rely on his father to rise above the rest." This monotonous chant continued for over half a month until Pei Yuan visited again. This time, he lacked the previous irritability, his gaze softened considerably. Patiently sitting by my side, his hand involuntarily reached toward my belly, startling me. "What are you doing, Prince?" I exclaimed loudly, causing him to retract his hand awkwardly, his demeanor somewhat unnatural, tinged with arrogance. "I am merely feeling for my little heir. What of it?" I shot him a cold glare, my anger causing me to tremble slightly. "What heir?" "This is my child, Xue family's child." I called for Tonger several times before she hurried over, disheveled, her hair slightly askew. Defiantly, she positioned herself between Pei Yuan and me, brusquely ushering him away. "The miss is weary and needs to rest. Your Highness should visit another day." The matron, following closely, spoke with poise, in my experience. It is beneficial for a husband to accompany a pregnant wife for the well-being of the fetus. with her neatly arranged hair and steady demeanor. She glanced between Pei Yuan and me before reproaching Tong, young Miss Tong, you lack understanding. The prince and the miss are conversing. We need not linger here. As she attempted to pull Tong away, she was met with a forceful shove. Tong glared at her, gritting her teeth. Did you not hear the miss calling for me? If you wish to leave, do so on your own. The matron was seldom confronted in such a manner, especially in front of Pei Yuan and me. She openly criticized Tong for her lack of decorum and attempted to take her away for a lesson. Raising her hand, she secretly pinched Tong's waist harshly, causing me to wince in pain as a wave of grievances surged within me. What audacity! Who dares to be so insolent before me? Shadow Guard, remove her from the mansion. The Shadow Guard acted swiftly, expelling all palace maids and matrons from the royal residence in Pei Yuan's presence, including him. The mansion's doors were firmly shut once more. The steward declared publicly, "The miss has experienced a fright. She requires quietude and shall not receive guests." He paid no heed to the murmurs of the onlookers outside. Subsequently, an apology was submitted from the palace, and the matter was no longer pursued. With no oversight, I swiftly concluded the organizational tasks and handed them over to the steward, sending them by swift horse to the south. Once this was accomplished, the steward, bearing a troubled expression, informed me, during this period, all our shops have faced malicious suppression, and the business has been adversely affected. The funds in the mansion are insufficient to cover this month's expenses. Malicious suppression? With a single glance, I immediately understood. In the capital, there was likely no one other than the emperor capable of undermining the Shui family's enterprises. They seek to drive me to the brink of despair, only to extend a false hand of mercy in the name of a savior, thereby justifying their appropriation of my child. Alternatively, they would bestow upon me the hollow title of a princess, elevating me to a paragon of virtue lauded by all. Yet, during the lifetime of my father and brothers, the wealth of the Shui family was largely devoted to the orphans and the elderly of the military. Such funds are irreplaceable. Now, as early autumn descends, it is the season for additional garments and bedding. Furthermore, there are the scholars' stipends and the expenses of the academy. Reluctantly, I must allow Tonger to retrieve the key to the storeroom. Let us first draw upon my dowry. I will resolve the business matters myself. Although the steward is reluctant, he is left with no choice. He takes the key with a deep sigh. Yet, merely consuming what remains will not suffice. Even in the capital, ordinary folk are keenly aware of social standings. Presently, while the general's estate still shines with glory, it lacks substantial support. Let us select some skilled merchants, regardless of their origins, trustworthy and loyal. A notion begins to form in my mind. The Shui family was established through my father's blood and sweat. All business and land were granted by the late emperor and the current one. Although the business was once sustainable, it merely sufficed to maintain our existence. The shopkeepers and servants are shrewd individuals, yet few possess true commercial acumen. This, too, is one reason the steward remains in the capital. However, he, too, is unfamiliar with these matters. Perhaps I could compose a letter seeking assistance from my maternal family, though they are far away and we have not communicated in some time. I am uncertain who among my uncles is currently in charge. As I ponder how to pen this correspondence, Tonger hurriedly arrives to inform me Pei Yuan has extended an invitation. I shall not go. Very well. Arrange for him to meet at Minghua Tower. Pei Yuan's methods are beneath contempt. I initially had no desire to meet him, but reconsidering, I find that an encounter may be worthwhile. With light refreshments and a modest drink, we sit across from each other, yet the ambience is starkly altered. The once dashing prince now bears an unmistakable air of petty triumph. Upon seeing me, he presumes I have come to concede defeat. Shuizixin. I have stated that the child belongs with me. He shall be the heir of the royal household, and both I and Linglong will treat him kindly. His demeanor exudes a sense of inevitability, confident that I am without allies to contest him. I respond with calm resolve. My child will not recognize you as a maternal figure. Moreover, should you continue to exert such pressure, if misfortune befalls me or my child, will you truly have no regrets? My child is not only the sole heir of the general's estate, but also his only offspring. Pei Yuan, enraged, slams the table. You're mad. Daring to use my heir as leverage against me. If anything were to happen to him, your entire family shall pay the price. The plate of hibiscus shrimp is knocked to the ground, shards of porcelain mingling with the shrimp, staining my skirt with grease. Pei Yuan, seemingly unperturbed, continues to glare at me. Suddenly, I recall how my brother once remarked on my fondness for the hibiscus shrimp served in the estate. Consequently, every restaurant and an under the Shui name in the capital learned to prepare this dish from our household cooks. During our newlywed days, Pei Yuan frequently brought me here, always ordering it. Later, when my father and brothers departed for battle, his demeanor grew abruptly cold towards me. At that time, I foolishly believed I had offended him. The more I awaken to the truth, the more I perceive the irony of the past. In a daze, I withdraw my gaze, looking down at my belly, and let out a cold laugh. Has the prince forgotten? The general's estate has but us two left. Pei Yuan suddenly falls silent, his gaze fixating on my abdomen, his throat constricting. Yet, he maintains his air of certainty. Very well, I shall not waste further words with you. Ultimately, this matter is not subject to your approval. As he sweeps out, he collides with a young waiter at the door, causing a delicate pot of chrysanthemums to crash to the ground. The petals scatter, muddied, while the waiter hastily apologizes. Pei Yuan kicks him and strides away, leaving the lad flustered and apologetic. Miss, forgive me. I shall fetch another pot at once. Momentarily lost in thought, I gaze at the flowers that have fallen into the dirt, and my throat tightens. These flowers. I recall how every time I visited, the room would be adorned with my favorite clusters of pink chrysanthemums. I had always thought Pei Yuan had specifically prepared them for me. The waiter quickly responds. The flowers were instructed by the manager this morning. The master had already arranged that whenever the miss comes, this flower must be prepared in advance. But I was so busy that I forgot and only just remembered. The master's instructions? So, even Pei Yuan's initial warmth was merely a figment of my own delusions? All the affection I believed I received stemmed from my brother, who raised me. The thought overwhelms me, and I feel tears welling up. When Tonga rushes back, she finds me covering my face, sobbing uncontrollably. She clutches the ledger of the restaurant and nervously pulls out a handkerchief, attempting to comfort me. Yet, upon opening her mouth, she becomes choked with emotion herself, merely able to gently pat my back. After I have wept enough, I ask her, Tonger, can I truly preserve the glory of the general's estate? Tonger, still teary-eyed, reassures me, you can, certainly. Even General Xie praises you, miss, for your righteous deeds that will echo through the ages. It is merely that the world is unaware at present. I embrace her, wiping my tears, and finally rise to return to the estate. On the way back, I encounter the pastry shop, where the proprietress cheerfully stops me, presenting a bag of peach juice cakes. I remember last time you wished to have peach juice cakes. These are made by me. Do try them. I am somewhat taken aback. Didn't you say you couldn't make them? She smiles bashfully. I used to think it too complicated and time-consuming, and since peach juice is not often available, I gave up after a few attempts. But then I thought, if my mother were to pass, the peach juice cake would be lost forever, and who would remember her? I would lose something to cherish her memory, so I gritted my teeth and learned it. As she speaks, her voice tinged with sadness, I am reminded of my own grief and cannot help but worry for her. How is your mother's health? She shakes her head. Not very well, as one ages. The body inevitably declines. While speaking, she takes a moment to wrap pastries for several customers. She carries herself with grace. However, when I ask Tonger to settle the bill, the proprietress adamantly refuses to accept payment. As the months progress and winter envelopes the capital, the details of my record of Nanhua have nearly been finalized. I have heard that recently Pei Yuan sought an imperial decree to elevate the concubine Chu Linglong to the status of princess, only to be met with the emperor's wrath. Tonger, recounting this, is filled with indignation. At this time to seek an imperial decree for a princess. That Chu is clearly calculating to stake her claim on our little prince. I flip through the red baby clothes and small quilt Tonger has embroidered, finding increasing joy in them. Amidst these busy days, she has prepared all the child's items. Yet, Tonger appears quite anxious. Miss, why are you not the least bit worried? The royal household has people watching us daily, just waiting for your delivery. As the time draws near, not only the royal household, but also the palace sends someone to inquire regularly. Initially, I managed to handle a few of these visits, but now they are dealt with by the steward. I gather my clothing and bedding, reassuring her. Did we not foresee this? We have long made plans. Though that is true, I cannot help but feel indignant on your behalf. Tonger, though feigning anger, carefully assists me in taking a stroll outside. Just as we step out, the steward approaches with a beaming expression. Miss, guess who has returned? Who? I, too, am curious as to who could bring such joy to the steward. Vice General Su Melin. The steward exclaims with delight. The name, however, is somewhat unfamiliar to me. Is he the young gentleman who stayed at our estate during childhood? Indeed. General Xie mentioned that as the year-end approaches, he requires a report on duties, and he has dispatched Deputy General Su back to the capital. Additionally, he has urged for the early publication of the records of Nanwei. With his words, I felt a sense of reassurance. In the past, my father had taken many orphans of his comrades to stay at our residence. The fact that General Xie would send him back certainly indicated his trust in him. I initially thought he was merely assisting. However, that very afternoon, Deputy General Su's troops surrounded the general's residence. At the entrance, he lamented, "In my youth, I received great kindness from the general, yet I have never repaid it, and now we are separated by the realms of life and death. Hearing that my benefactor's daughter is about to give birth and is subject to disturbances in the night, I have come to stand guard here today. Let the rascals depart of their own accord, or I shall offer them to my blade." He did not even enter, but sat at the door with his sword in hand. Once again, the general's residence was thrust into the spotlight. The common folk began to recall the merits and righteous deeds of the late General Shui. Many started to discuss, "I have heard there is a school outside the city." And during General Shui's lifetime, he consistently invited teachers to educate the orphans of those soldiers. Not only that, but the martial ones also received instruction in martial arts and military strategies. It is said that Deputy General Su was brought back from the battlefield by General Shui, along with many others who hold important positions in the army and have yet to return. Is that true? Just a few days ago, the Wang family was constantly seeking trouble, waiting to seize the young heir. Now, is that plan doomed to fail? It's hard to say, after all. The Wang family has royal blood, and it truly is difficult to predict. As discussions continued, many retained a sense of voyeuristic anticipation. The first to lose composure was Pei Yuan. When he confronted Deputy General Su with the royal guards, I felt a sudden pang of anxiety, and with it, my water broke. Tonger, frightened, hastily called for help. The midwife and physician had long been prepared within the residence, and in an instant, chaos ensued. I was settled onto the bed, following the midwife's instructions, as cold sweat streamed down my face from the pain. Each contraction felt as if my very being were being torn apart. The agony was so intense that I contemplated death several times. Tonger remained by my side, holding my hand, continually offering encouragement and urging me to persevere. Each time I felt I could endure no longer, I thought of my father and brothers, and miraculously, I pressed on. Throughout the entire night, as dawn broke, a cry finally pierced the air. I clutched Tonger's hand tightly, fixated on the child. Just as Tonger was about to approach, the midwife spoke with a hint of disappointment. "It is a girl." In an instant, the news swept through the palace, the streets, and alleys. "Miss Shui has given birth to a girl. Both the Wang family and the general's family will face extinction." Pei Yuan was utterly shattered, leaving in a daze, murmuring to himself, "How could it be a daughter? How could it be a daughter?" Upon seeing him depart, Deputy General Su glanced back at the residence that had once sheltered him, feeling a tinge of disappointment as he withdrew his troops. Within the palace, the emperor confirmed repeatedly, "Our people witnessed it firsthand. Shui Zixin has given birth to a daughter?" The messenger nodded affirmatively. Only then did he resign himself to fate. "Well, we shall have to adopt a child from the royal clan for my younger brother in the future." He felt a pang of guilt. Had he not sought to win over the general's family back then, his younger brother might have already married the woman he loved and perhaps had a multitude of children by now, thus avoiding this unwarranted calamity. His remorse towards Pei Yuan deepened. Upon learning of the birth of a girl in the Shui family, Chu Linglong was filled with mixed emotions. She mourned the injustice of heaven for ensuring her family's line would end, yet found solace in the fact that the position of the princess would be forever out of her reach. The once bustling Shui residence now fell silent. The steward stood at the entrance, gazing sorrowfully at the weakened mother and daughter within. Only Tonger remained devotedly by the side of the little miss, never daring to relax her vigil, until the woman on the bed slowly regained consciousness. Tonger was the first to notice, cradling the child by the bedside. Her eyes, tinged with blood, sparkled with joy. "Miss, you're awake." She eagerly presented the child to me. "Look, miss, it's a little girl. And the doctor says she is very healthy." The tiny, soft infant, wrinkled and delicate, melted my heart, and suddenly, tears streamed down my cheeks uncontrollably. Tonger gasped, quickly placing the child beside me. "You mustn't cry during confinement, miss. You should be happy." She frantically wiped my tears. "Silly Tonger, why are you crying?" "I am simply overjoyed for you, miss." Tonger finally sighed in relief, appearing as though she had just completed an extreme sport, utterly exhausted. Yet her gaze towards the child mirrored my own satisfaction. "Miss, what name shall we give the little miss?" "Shwe Changle," I replied without hesitation. I had long decided on the names. The boy would be named Changle and the girl Changle. Tonger beamed at the child. "How wonderful. Our little miss has a name now. She is truly our Shwe family's little miss." Perhaps it was the joy of becoming a mother for the first time. But seeing such a scene, my eyes welled up. "Tonger, please give Changle a nickname." Tonger was taken aback, hurriedly shaking her head. "That would not be appropriate. I am merely a servant. If I say it is permissible, then it is." From the moment I became weak and faint after childbirth, Tonger had not closed her eyes. Even though many looked down upon the fact that I had given birth to a daughter, Tonger continued to hold and watch over her while nursing. Fearful that she might be taken away, it was not improper for her to name the child. After several refusals, Tonger cautiously suggested a name. "Songer, would that be all right?" I asked which song. Tonger gazed earnestly at the child and smiled as she replied, "The song from Song Bai." I may not know many characters, but I often hear poets and scholars praise the resilience of the pine and cypress, their tenacity and vitality. I hope our little miss can embody that. And may she encounter auspiciousness. I smiled as well, choosing not to correct her. I nodded earnestly. "Songer is lovely. Let us name her Songer." A month later, the Shwe family's little girl celebrated her full moon banquet. No grand feast was set up at the residence. Instead, porridge was distributed at the city gate for an entire month. Only the palace, Deputy General Su's household, and a few military families sent envoys with congratulatory gifts. As the common people consumed their porridge, they couldn't help but express their regrets. It seemed that in the entire capital, no one rejoiced for the newborn girl. At noon, a group of scholars directly blocked the entrance. The leading scholar boldly stated, "We merely wish to inquire whether, now that the residence lacks a head, can our school still be maintained?" Scholars are known for their lofty ideals, yet they had all endured hardships and worked diligently to study. Compared to ideals, their greater concern lay in the continuity of their education. Thus, no matter how much the steward implored, they refused to leave and could only report back to me for a decision. When the news reached me, Tonger had just cut a lock of Songer's first hair. The maids surrounding her were busy and cheerful. Suddenly, thinking something significant had occurred, they anxiously looked to me. I rose to reassure them, "There's nothing to worry about. Continue what you're doing. I will return shortly." Upon arriving at the front courtyard, I was met by a throng of over 100 people. It was then I realized the household school had accommodated so many students. No wonder our finances were stretched thin. The leading scholar bowed upon seeing me and asked, "For the full moon celebration of the young lady, we should not intrude, but concerning our future, we wish to ask the young lady if the school can continue?" In truth, he wanted to know, can the Shwe family endure? Yes, I tightened my cloak and resolutely assured them. As long as I am here, the Shwe family will endure. The school, the martial arena, will continue. What my father and brothers established, I will strive to uphold. A man clad in black, skeptical, questioned me in front of the crowd. "You are, after all, a woman, and your only child is a little miss. With the Shwe family lacking male heirs, should you act in such a manner, your kin will no longer offer assistance. How much longer can the Shwe family endure?" The chill from the ground seeped through the thick soles of my shoes, creeping up my limbs and chilling my very bones. Everyone awaited my response. In truth, I could have disregarded them. However, the thought of their fathers and ancestors, who once followed our family onto the battlefield, compelled me to maintain my composure. Then, another young man stepped forward, speaking clearly, "Do not take offense, miss. The pursuit of knowledge is arduous, and we fear that after 10 years of diligent study, our efforts may be in vain." I could no longer contain myself. What a poignant saying about 10 years of study and efforts gone to waste. Do you truly believe that your hard-won knowledge will vanish with the prosperity of the Xue family? Historically, those of merit never lament their circumstances. Yet here you are, devising excuses for failure without even attempting the imperial examination. A gust of cold wind swept through, causing me to shiver involuntarily, as if plunged into an icy abyss. The crowd, taken aback by my words, lowered their gazes in shame. Still, a few remained obstinate, attempting to argue their case. Do not be angry, miss. General Xue has stated that once we pass the imperial examination, we shall no longer be affiliated with the Xue family. We are uncertain whether the Xue family has long intended to withdraw support from the academy or if there are other plans at play. If you are uncertain, allow me to enlighten you. The Xue Academy will no longer accept you. My father had clearly stated that those who entered the civil service through the examination would no longer require the academy support to avoid the suspicion of forming cliques. Yet, in his mouth, it transformed into the Xue family turning their backs on us. Such individuals, even if they succeed, would only tarnish the Xue family's reputation. Upon hearing this, the young man's face paled. Miss, your words have severed a student's future. This is rather tyrannical. I dismissed him with a wave of my hand. Addressing the instructor once more, as long as I am here, the Xue family shall contribute the agreed amount to the academy each month. If anyone feels discontent, anxious, or wishes to leave prematurely, I shall not retain them. The crowd was taken aback. Only then did they collectively bow and murmur, "We thank you, Mississippi." Before departing, the steward prepared 2 warm red eggs for each person. I dragged my shivering body back indoors. Tonger had already kindled a cozy charcoal stove. After consuming a bowl of piping hot ginger water, I finally felt a glimmer of warmth. Yet, she was deeply concerned. These students truly lack gratitude. Why make things difficult for a woman who has just given birth? If they were capable, they should earn their own way to study. In that moment, I felt a surge of comfort, smiling in agreement, indeed. Thank goodness for the steward's cleverness, otherwise, I would have frozen into a block of ice. Had it not been for the steward's deliberate arrangement of a chicken to serve as a warning, they would not have been so easily subdued. When the 100-day banquet arrived, aside from the porridge stall set up by the Xue family at the city gate, no one seemed to recall the news of the birth of a girl in the Xue manor 3 months prior. In the evening, the long-absent Pei Yuan suddenly appeared at my door, holding a redwood brocade box. He appeared much more haggard, and upon seeing me, his usual arrogance had faded. After extending the box towards me, he softly inquired, "Child, may I see her?" My heart tightened as I replied, "It's a daughter, surnamed Xue." This time, he did not exhibit disdain. His gaze was earnest as he fixed it upon me. "I understand. I merely wished to see her." After all, he was the child's father. I felt a moment of softness and called for Tonger to bring the child. Songer was peacefully asleep, her little face serene, unaware that her father had come to visit. A hint of tenderness crossed Pei Yuan's face as he reached out to touch the child's cheek. Tonger, already wary of him, instinctively took a large step back, cradling the child protectively as if facing a formidable adversary. "Did you not say you would only look?" Pei Yuan hastily withdrew his hand and looked back at me. "I apologize. May I hold her?" Songer is too small and unaccustomed to being held by strangers. Moreover, how could a prince be expected to hold a child? Pei Yuan's expression soured with disappointment as he asked vacantly, "Is her name Songer? Why does she have a name typically given to boys?" At this, Tonger could no longer contain herself and, lowering her voice, retorted, "Your Highness, do not harbor unrealistic dreams. This is our little miss of the Xue family, named Xue Chang'e. Not some boy or heir. Besides, do you not already have an heir at your residence?" Pei Yuan's face turned pale at her words, and he nervously glanced at the child as if fearing she might overhear. But Songer remained in blissful slumber. A few days prior, the emperor had selected a son for Pei Yuan from the clan, a child not yet half a year old, cared for by a secondary consort. Neither the consort nor he had experience with children, and despite the presence of wet nurses and attendants, the child cried incessantly, causing them much distress. Yet, that morning, in a sudden whim, he held the recently fed child, whose large eyes gazed up at him, and his heart softened. He realized that he had never held his own daughter in such a manner. Was she not equally soft? Perhaps the instinct of fatherly love had stirred within him. Thus, he personally chose a gift and hurried to the Shui manor. Upon arriving, he discovered that it was his daughter's 100-day celebration. However, the Shui manor appeared desolate. At that moment, he mustered his courage and turned to his estranged wife, saying, "For the sake of the child, if you wish to resume your position as the princess." "I am willing. I do not wish to." I inadvertently raised my voice, waking the peacefully sleeping Songer, who burst into tears. I swiftly took her in my arms to soothe her while coldly issuing an order for him to leave. Pei Yuan seemed startled by the child's loud wailing, standing frozen for a few seconds before hastily retreating. Once he was far away, Tonger patted her chest, exclaiming, "You gave me quite a scare. I thought he had come to snatch away our little miss." My anxious heart finally found relief. After the 100-day celebration, the steward arranged for me to go to the tranquil outskirts of the capital. This was both to escape the clamor and to allow me to relax. Additionally, the steward mentioned that upon hearing of my childbirth, everyone was delighted, albeit they lacked the opportunity to visit the city, eagerly awaiting news. Since this is a joyous occasion, prepare an abundance of festive pastries, cakes, and dried fruits to bring joy to the children as well. Tonger busily arranged everything. Upon arriving at the outskirts, a considerable number of people were already waiting at the entrance. The spacious courtyard was filled with women and young girls. Having not seen each other for half a year, everyone remained warm and welcoming. As the carriage approached, they gathered around, all cheerful yet speaking in hushed tones, as if afraid of disturbing the child. Upon seeing Songer, the head of the group handed me a red envelope. I was about to refuse, but she smiled and explained, "Miss, you cannot refuse. This is a blessing for the little miss." With her insistence, Tonger swiftly accepted it and distributed the festive pastries and dried fruits. The children joyfully began to eat, exchanging auspicious greetings. The women took out their embroidered dolls and small toys, creating a lively atmosphere. The head of the group then guided me to a side hall while reporting on the situation inside. The outskirts housed many widows or orphans from the battlefield, women who came to learn skills or create embroidered goods. The head would send these to the Shui family's shops in the city for sale to make a living. When funds were insufficient, the manor would provide support. Any surplus could be saved for themselves. Those wishing to work in the shops would also receive arrangements. The girls learned embroidery and basic literacy, which would be beneficial for their future marriages. This world demands much from women, yet offers them little in return. My father often said, "One must have direction, and there lies hope." They are here, bringing with them a renewed hope for survival. 24. Tonger gazed at the infant Songer in her swaddling clothes, remarking, "Since the young lady's arrival, she has scarcely slept." With her large, curious eyes, she surveyed her surroundings, flitting from one thing to another. Upon seeing anyone, the little girl would cheerfully wave and beckon to them. Tonger could not help but share in the joy. As night fell, they dined on fresh countryside delicacies, surrounded by the lively chatter of friends. It felt as though the days had returned to a more innocent time. Back when my father and brothers were away at war, I often found myself bored and restless, and the steward would bring me to the Yen courtyard for a brief respite. He would say, "Everyone in the Yen courtyard is family." After realizing his slip of the tongue, he would sheepishly add, "Forgive my clumsiness, young lady. We are all servants of the Shui family and have long considered ourselves part of it." At that time, I was only interested in play and paid little heed to such matters. After staying in the Yen courtyard for 2 days, a letter arrived from home, bearing news of a victory in Nanwei and that an imperial edict was coming to the residence that evening. We hurried back to the manor and freshened up. As we arrived, the palace officials were just entering the residence. The eunuch, wearing a broad smile, handed me the proclaimed edict, congratulating me with delight. "Congratulations, Princess Wuda, truly. A tiger's offspring cannot be a dog." The steward had already informed me that General Xia had recommended my Chronicles of Nanwei to the emperor, praising it greatly. He noted that the soldiers' recent triumphs were significantly aided by this work. When the emperor conferred rewards, he also considered the merits of my father and brothers, which led to the exceptional honor of granting me the title of County Princess. I had heard that he originally intended to bestow the title of princess upon Songer, but several elder generals advised against it, saying, "This book is the work of the Shui father and daughter. What merit does it hold to award a mere infant?" It was upon this council that the emperor then conferred the title upon me instead. I naturally understood they were advocating on my behalf. In humble response to the eunuch, I said, not at all. It is all my father's achievement. I merely organized it. I then presented him with a pouch of silver. The eunuch gratefully accepted and left, leaving all the rewards behind. With the title of county princess, invitations to various banquets in the capital began to arrive at the manor once more, and the businesses of all the shops flourished significantly. Of course, the contributions of several young shopkeepers who had returned from my maternal family played a significant role. The once struggling shops were revitalized. In just a few years, the first embroidery house in the capital, named after the Yen courtyard, opened its doors. The now retired General Xia and his wife came personally to extend their congratulations. Presently, General Su is stationed at the Nanwei border. One day, Mrs. Xia took my hand and insisted on introducing me to a potential husband, but General Xia intervened, saying, "In this entire capital, there is no one worthy of the daughter of the Shui family. Old Shui has raised a fine daughter." He even winked at me slyly. I recognized Mrs. Xia's good intentions and bore no offense. In recent days, many suitors had come to propose. Some offered sweet words, while others spoke ill of me. I chose to ignore them all, focusing solely on managing my household and caring for my songer. Just as I was at the door gently declining a matchmaker's advances, a small figure burst forth, running and shouting, "Mother!" Tonger anxiously chased after her, repeatedly cautioning, "Young lady, slow down. Be careful not to fall." However, Songer, with her short legs, moved surprisingly quickly and Tonger could not catch up. Finally, like a cannonball, she launched herself into my arms. Had it not been for Xian Yinggui's support, we would have surely tumbled to the ground. Upon seeing Xian Yingui, Songer gleefully exclaimed, "Aunt Yingui has come out. Are we going to play hide and seek?" Xian Yingui, with a hint of exasperation, replied, "It was Songer who ran too fast. Had I not come out, your mother would have been hurt." Songer, startled, responded, "Oh, mother, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry." I gently patted her head and smiled, "It's all right. But Songer mustn't run so fast in the future. What if you fall and get hurt? Mother would be heartbroken." Songer nodded vigorously and then leapt into Tonger's embrace. 25. Xian Yingui did not conceal her form but walked alongside me back to the courtyard. I could not help but urge her, "Your brother has passed, and our family has stabilized over the years. Have you considered your future?" I had asked her this question many times over the years. Her original name was Ying, a girl whom my brother had rescued from the battlefield, intending to send her to the Yen courtyard. However, with her remarkable skills, she was reluctant to learn embroidery. With no place to settle her and eager to return to the battlefield, my brother had no choice but to leave her in my care. Before departing, he repeatedly instructed me, "She is a lonely girl with a pitiful past. Do not bully her." I laughed at his fussiness, saying, "If you're so worried, just take her with you." My brother, with gentle persuasion, replied, "Good sister, just look after her for a while. When I return, I will bring you something nice." But Ying was too stubborn. She declared, "Your brother saved my life. I must repay him by protecting you." Initially, she served as a guard in the household. Later, when I entered the royal residence, she became my shadow guard, caring for me while waiting for my brother's return. After our father and brothers fell in battle, and Pei Yuan turned against me several times, she always stood by my side, which ultimately led to the procurement of the divorce decree. Years have passed, and all notions of debt and obligation have faded. Only familial affection remains. Ying played with Songer, still providing the same steadfast answer as before. From the moment he saved me, my future has only existed within the Shui residence. She remained as resolute as ever. 26. As the years passed, Songer grew, and Tonger married and had children, becoming the new matriarch of the household, overseeing both me and Ying. In moments of leisure, I often enjoyed having her take me to the rooftop to gaze upon the splendor of the capital. Yet, Tonger would always caution us. "What kind of little old lady climbs rooftops daily?" Tonger would often jest that we were little old ladies, but in truth, we were not old at all. Merely dressed in plain garments year after year, we appeared so. Ying, however, remarked, "We are not so young anymore. Songer has already had 2 children. Indeed, Songer now had children. In recent years, She had taken the youngest son of the minister as a husband, much to the dismay of his parents. She had boldly confronted them at the minister's door, hands on her hips, demanding, "In the Shui family, I am the only child. You must either come to us or join our family. Choose." What choice he made remains unclear. Ultimately, he arrived at the Shui residence in a bridal sedan chair, becoming the family's son-in-law. The young couple bickered playfully yet shared a sweet bond. Just as Ying and I descended from the rooftop, Songer approached hand in hand with her husband, followed by two little girls with round buns for hairstyles. The sisters, clasping hands, greeted me with bright smiles, calling grandmother. Their demure and gentle demeanor was a far cry from Songer's spirited childhood. Songer, looking troubled, complained to me, "Mother still insists we won't hold a birthday banquet this year." With just a month to go, the congratulatory gifts from everywhere are nearly overflowing in the storeroom. No banquet. No banquet. The more we hold, the older I become. "I wish to remain youthful a while longer," she replied. Songer laughed. "Do you still wish to be as young as Sanger and Yor?" Ying and Tonger joined in the laughter. I shook my head and gathered the two little ones in my arms, saying, "Grandmother is quite saddened. She does not wish to be an old lady and does not want to celebrate her birthday." Sanger comforted me, "Grandmother, do not be sad. Celebrating your birthday means you can see lanterns and fireworks." Yor, with her twinkling eyes, added, "If grandmother does not like it, may I celebrate your birthday on your behalf?" This elicited laughter from all. 27. The common folk outside the long street observed the steady stream of visitors arriving at the Shui residence, laden with gifts, filled with curiosity. Whose venerable elder's birthday is it that such a multitude of officials has gathered to present gifts? Are they not concerned about the possibility of forming cliques for personal gain? The proprietress of the corner pastry shop flung the dough in her hands with vigor, cheerfully explaining, "It is not just any elder. It is the birthday of the county princess of the Shui family." The onlooker was taken aback, a county princess celebrating her birthday to such grand proportions? She is no ordinary county princess. An enthusiastic customer who was purchasing pastries interjected eagerly. "Just look at the distinguished guests here today, be they civil officials or military commanders. They all owe their fortunes to the Shui family, having either come from the Shui Academy or the Shui martial arts training grounds. All of this is the result of the county princess's efforts." The onlooker nodded in bewilderment, then questioned, "How can one attribute such accomplishments to the county princess? Should it not be the head of the Shui family who deserves the credit? Whoever assigns the family's achievements solely to a male?" The proprietress retorted with irritation. "Our county princess is indeed the head of the Shui family. Not only her, but also her daughter and her granddaughter." The onlooker was left speechless. Is it truly the case in the capital that the